accumulated, and I think there is a collective responsibility for that situation. It's not an individual responsibility for those people who have been forced into the illegal status they are. That is why the essence of our petition campaign is to A, transition to residency all those who had been promised that opportunity in the past, because we cannot replace them. The post-COVID world, we will not be able to have over 300,000 people here on temporary visas ever again, I don't believe, for years, if not decades. The world will not be recovering from this pandemic. The world is getting, the pandemic is getting worse in large parts of the globe, not better, even with the vaccines that are available. So it'll be many years before, large-scale temporary migration will be able to happen again, if it should happen again. In my view, if we require people, then recycling people on temporary visas doesn't make sense to me. It just opens the road to exploitation. If we need people, everyone should have a pathway to residency after fulfilling certain basic obligations. But we can't replace the ones who are here. It makes no sense to be deporting them, in my view, whether they have overstayed their visa or not, but in particular those who have been falsely promised a route to residency in the past. They've paid tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars to educational institutions as part of their getting their, they've studied at university, they've done postgraduate degrees, they've taken jobs in the labour market, many of them have children born here, some of them have been here for a decade or more. It makes no sense to be sending these people home, and so we are appealing to the government to create a pathway to residency and an amnesty program so people can stay. We think this is it's a sensible thing economically, it's a sensible thing from the point of view of social justice, and I think it is a popular view in the community. We have been petitioning, so I'll finish on this point. We have been petitioning in public, in parks, and in communities, and in workplaces, and there is no hostility to there's no one going, oh, send them all home. There's no one shouting about it. There's no one sort of angry and hostile to this migrant community we have among us. In fact, there's a broad and genuine understanding of the position that many of them, because I think everybody, because many of us all have family or connections or workmates who are in this situation, and so it is not a foreign or unique thing. New Zealand has 25% of New Zealand's population was not born in New Zealand. 40% of Auckland's population are not born in New Zealand. We are a migrant nation, and being kind to migrants is like the first thing that we should be doing, not being hostile. And I think there's broad community support for the proposition, and so that is why we are passing on this petition. 15,000 on this one, or more than 15,000 on this one. The Green Party, who adopted a position on this issue just less than a week ago, got over 15,000 in a few days. There's 50,000 signatures on a petition that went to Parliament calling for a broad amnesty. That just sort of seemed to, 60,000 I think it got to, it just seemed to keep rattling up on the numbers. Just people want something to happen, and this is an opportunity to fix it for many, and I think any government that does it will be re-elected forever. So I think there's a bit of self-interest could be in favour there as well. Anyway, that's by way of introduction, and by way of welcome to our two Green MPs. Just before, yes, that's right. Our two MPs. Yes, and both have been, and I want to say also, both have been good friends of Unite over a very long time and really appreciate their presence. So before she became an MP, she was, when she was a union leader, but then after she was an MP, she was always on the night picket lines of the cinemas or wherever else we were having one when we were in the blue. So it was before becoming part of the government. So it's great to have her here, and Ricardo, of course, has been a good ally and friend of Unite through the campaigns against poverty over many years, and also as a MP. We seem to be crossing each other's path every week over the last few months. So again, very much a warm welcome for them to be here today.
Thank you.
You want to say a few words?
Yeah, sure. Firstly, thank you for being here, Ricardo and Maya, to accept our submission and subsequently the requests that we made. I think Mike has touched on most of the issues that migrants face, and definitely there is a widespread interest and migrant communities themselves organizing to make these requests. So by way of example, in this week we've got several vigils happening around the country. So on Wednesday, 12th of May in the evening, like most of centres, Auckland, Christchurch, Hamilton, Queenstown, and even Nelson, Tauranga. We Migrant Workers Association is Auckland based, so we would not have been able to do that just on our own. So this is migrant communities themselves organising in those centres, in their neighbourhoods. And then the big event on Thursday, 13th of May, we understand that the House will be having a general debate around immigration. And again, that we see that as a positive step, hopefully a beginnings of something more worthwhile for migrants who remain from one temporary to next temporary visa, and for that ultimate goal of residence. So we hope it's the beginning of something positive and constructive. And in terms of support, both of you have been very, very supportive of the migrant issues and migrant cause. Ricardo, I always quote the example of our international Indian students who were being deported. Ricardo wasn't even an MP at that time, as migrant himself. We were both migrants, I guess, from that perspective, we've always had support from you both, and we look forward continuation of that support for the migrant issues and for the migrant causes. Thank you.
Thank you. Right. What's next?
Ricardo, would you like to respond?
Yeah, kia ora. I just wondered if you wanted to maybe say a few words first. But kia ora korua, and thank you for the introduction and presenting the petition for pathways to residency. On behalf of the Green Party, I just wanted to say that we wholeheartedly support the principles of this petition, and as you will know, we launched a campaign recently to overhaul our immigration system, which includes creating pathways to residency, amnesty for overstayers, decoupling visas from single employers, as well as other changes to ensure that our migrant communities can live with dignity. And I wanted to acknowledge that the nature of this petition is about recognizing the mana that our migrant communities bring with them to Aotearoa and the contributions that our migrant communities face. And to me, it's about also, as a government party, about ensuring that we live to the rhetoric of kindness and economic justice. We've recently seen stories that I find extremely concerning of migrant workers in the construction industry being deported into prison, and before an investigation into exploitation is fully carried. And just a couple of days ago, we found out about a similar situation with migrant workers who had overstayed their visas working at a kainga ora site, which to me is the antithesis of us fixing the housing crisis in a way that upholds workers' rights, in a way that upholds the well-being of our communities. And so pathways to residency and amnesty for people who overstay their visas means that our workers who have contributed so much during the pandemic, who continue to contribute so much as we fix the housing crisis, are able to have their rights upheld, are not put in situations where they're exploited. And as we recover through the pandemic, that our migrant communities are able to fully participate in society And so I acknowledge that we're having a debate this week on immigration, but I think that what the Green Party has been really clear about is that we have an opportunity in the context of the pandemic for the Minister of Immigration to use his powers, and for Cabinet to also use their powers, to bring about justice for migrants. We know that amnesty programs are not a new thing. In fact, recently as early 2000s, a Labour government initiated an amnesty program for people who overstay their visas, and we think the time is right to do a broad amnesty program right now. So it's a great pleasure to receive the petition and just acknowledge the hard work we've done in the communities, and we'll continue fighting for migrant rights inside the House.
Next up is Marja. And I'd just like to just say, first of all, we have to understand the limitations there are on her as a government representative, and the fact that an announcement is going to be made next week or whenever or quite soon on this, so she can't preempt that. So it's a tough sort of position to come here and put you on the spot a little bit around this, but welcome.
I appreciate it, thank you very much. And that's probably a good clarification, but it doesn't mean that I want to shy away from my own personal views on this as well. So, and I talk about all that's been said by all the speakers. I acknowledge also Ricardo as my colleague, and he very clearly spoke of the manner of our migrant communities, which absolutely I endorse and support. Mike talked about the level of exploitation, so that is definitely something that I feel personally that needs to be addressed. It's not just about keeping people here or getting people here, but actually making sure that they're safe and that they are in situations where they are not exploited the way that I mean, there's dreadful stories here, and also our whole system with regards to being able to address those exploitative situations where people quite often already have left the country before their cases are heard. So all of that needs to be reviewed. But so coming back to the fact that I'm also part of a government that hasn't made a decision yet, and no decisions has been made, I thought it's probably safer if I stick to some of the lines that I have, so I don't sort of wander away too much from there. Last year the government extended visas for temporary migrant workers and their families to ensure they could remain in New Zealand and work lawfully while the borders were closed. This enabled those migrants to remain in New Zealand relatively safe from COVID-19 and increased the size of the onshore workforce that could fill labour shortages created by the border closures. This was intended as a temporary measure, and most of these extensions are due to expire in the coming months. No decision has been made to further extend them. The Minister of Immigration has asked for further advice on onshore visas that will keep pressure off New Zealanders getting work while maximising the onshore workforce while the border remains materially closed. People with expiring temporary work visas and their families may be able to get a new work visa if there are no New Zealanders available to fill their role. New Zealand is always going to need migrants. They are an important and valuable part of our communities and our economy, but getting our immigration settings right has always been a balancing act. Our residence program focuses on bringing in skilled workers and business people to meet New Zealand's labour market needs in order to grow the economy, as well as supporting rights of New Zealanders to form families and fulfilling our humanitarian commitments. There are existing resident pathways for those who are currently in New Zealand on temporary work visas. The skilled migrant category in particular may be an option for those skilled workers who will contribute to New Zealand's long-term economic and social goals. The Minister has signalled a reset of our immigration system to ensure it's contributing to this government's goal of having a productive, sustainable and inclusive economy in a post-19 world. He has also signalled a review of the skilled migrant category residence visa to assess whether it remains fit for purpose to meet New Zealand's skills needs in the longer term. So very clearly that's a balancing act of the position that we're currently in. So no decisions has been made, but there are reviews and decisions will be announced. But once again, for me personally, to all that has been said and pledge my support to migrant communities. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Any questions from the media?
If you can I just grab each one of you individually for some extra
Sure.
afterwards?
And if that's the case, then we'll do a little formal handover, right? So I know if you